All right. The November 17th, 2025 legislative session of the Anne Arundel County Council is called to order. Please ensure all phones and electronic devices are set to silent. Mr. Volke will lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Please rise.
Good evening. Please pray in a manner consistent with your faith as I pray in a manner consistent with mine. Father God, as we begin this meeting, may we be mindful of the responsibilities entrusted to us. Grant us insight to choose wisely, patience to listen fully, and commitment to act for the welfare of all. May our work today promote fairness, unity, and the well-being of our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, please read the ethics statement.
The Ethics Commission has asked that I advise you that under certain circumstances, members of the public may qualify as lobbyists when they testify before the County Council. If so, the law requires that certain information be filed with the Ethics Commission. The chair of the Ethics Commission has asked that those who wish to testify in any form review the general information on lobbying sheet located on the Ethics website under Forms and Publications. If there are any questions about lobbying requirements, please contact the Ethics Commission at 410-222-4412.
Before we open our discussions and public hearing, I would like to remind everyone in attendance, whether testifying or as a member of the audience, that we must maintain decorum at all times within these chambers. Please understand that individual conversations in the audience are very disruptive to the proceedings, and I would kindly ask you to step out of the chambers if a side discussion is necessary. We will now open our invitation to the audience. This is an opportunity to speak briefly on any subject not included in the printed agenda. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak during the invitation to audience? Okay. Please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Mr. Nimhart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kyle Nemhard, Glen Burnie, Maryland. Unfortunately, I do not have any Shakespeare quotes for you this evening. But my son loves soccer, and we were on the way to his soccer practice one day. We were a little behind schedule, and as luck would have it, we were hitting red light after red light after red light, and he grew increasingly anxious and annoyed by that, right? So I had to explain to him that there are laws on the books that prohibit you from just running red lights. He viewed that as a local barrier to keep him from his soccer practice. So his response was, well, they should change the law then. And as amusing as that was, I explained to him that, while that's a direct way of addressing his immediate concern, there are far worse consequences for doing so. So I get that you all do not have easy jobs, and I respect the fact that you elected to serve your constituents. Aspects of the 2005 County Code, much like the traffic light example, were put in place for a responsible reason. Bill 1924, Section 1, Line 21, removes the requirement for developers to have direct access to roadways with sufficient capacity in R5 and R10 zoning districts. And this is before the added density bonuses. This takes the easy way out when attempting to address the county's housing affordability challenges. Metaphorically speaking, lines 21 through 24 remove the traffic lights for the sake of expediency. The more I look into this legislation, the more I am compelled to wonder if this legislation was specifically written for the Nixon property itself. In less than a year, Milton Horn sent out letters to our communities notifying us of the sketch plan. The timing seems oddly curious. And just a fun fact, it just occurred to me that Bill 1924 was read and passed on April 1st, 2024. Which also happens to be April Fool's Day. So I guess the joke was on us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Nimhard. Mr. Riley.
Hello, my name is Stephen Waddy. I live at 7968 Heather Miss Drive in Severn, Maryland. I'm here on behalf of the NAACP as its president. The NAACP is issuing a formal clarification regarding the county executive's recent desire for an apology for slavery. The branch was neither consulted nor invited to participate in discussions regarding the apology. We haven't seen any language about it yet. And before the October 3rd press release went out with the NAACP's name in it, we were not consulted about this apology for slavery, and we asked the county executive to remove any reference of our endorsement, and that would be inaccurate and unauthorized. The NAACP's name was included in the county communications without prior notice or consent. The branch emphasized that, consistent with national NAACP resolutions, an apology for slavery must be accompanied by tangible reparations to hold moral and legal meaning. The Anne Arundel County NAACP identified 8 specific actions necessary for genuine redress. This is based off a national 2019 resolution that the national NAACP passed, including immediate compensation for descendants, Anne Arundel County Museum for African American History, a 40% Black hiring benchmark, prioritizing Black county residents, namely in the Office of Law, where they have yet to get through having more than 5 Black people working in there. Contract equity reforms for county partners, and the creation of an Office of Black American Affairs to monitor equity outcomes and disaggregate ethnicity data. Black people in Anne Arundel County built the agricultural industry, the maritime industry, almost everything related to our economic base, and have yet to receive the necessary recompense. So it's something that we need in this moment.
Thank you, Mr. Waddy. Mr. Minahan.
Madam Chair, Council, good evening. Matt Minahan, 3651 First Avenue, Edgewater, Maryland, on behalf of the Growth Action Network. Who among us could possibly be against shining more sunlight into the deep, dark corners of county government? Who among us could be against inviting better citizen education and understanding about land use legislation? Who among us could possibly oppose hearing from real estate, legal, fiscal, and environmental experts in advance as land use legislation is drafted and submitted to and by our overworked part-time county council, none of whom has a background in land use? These are questions that we in GAN are asking ourselves this evening as we continue our campaign to create an actual planning commission for Anne Arundel County government. Apparently, we haven't made the case yet to let the sunshine in. We haven't made the case yet to let the voters decide. We haven't made the case that 22 of the 24 jurisdictions in the state have made that an independent, non-biased, non-political planning commission making recommendations, not decisions, to the county council is a better, healthier approach to land use planning. We've heard that planning commissions don't work in some places in the state. We've heard that one county had to shut down its planning commission because it didn't have enough members for a quorum. All of which may be true, but none of which persuades us in GAN that it won't and can't work here. Anne Arundel County needs more sunlight and more opportunity for citizen input into a process that is widely seen as another dark corner of county government dominated by wealthy and well-connected development interests. And speaking of sunshine, we invite you all to our GAN annual meeting tomorrow night, which, by the way, will be fully hybrid, as we hope one day this meeting will also be.
Thank you, Mr. Minahan. Yes, sir.
Michael Brown, Timber Cross Lane, Glen Burnie, Maryland. Come before the council this evening to talk about 2 bridges in Tanyard Springs. I am coming before the council just as a resident. The HOA wanted to improve these bridges as there was issues with these bridges. An agreement was trying to be worked out, but our board decided to push it back on county since it is on county property. I'm asking that this council seriously look into this as part of the budget process, as there is a county park that is right down the pathway that these bridges would be great to assist in pedestrian traffic, especially I believe there is another trail going to be put in up against Marley Neck. So I'm just asking the county to look into this, the council to look into this and add it to your budget process. As this has been going on, these bridges have actually been shut down for a number of months, and our HOA has made the decision to kind of push back on the county and say, it's on county property, you guys go handle. I do have diagrams of where these bridges are. I can give to the county council. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than willing to answer any that I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, all right. The invitation to audience is now closed. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda? So may I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the minutes of the legislative session of November 3rd, 2025.
The county council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 7:04 p.m. It was opened with the invocation given by Mr. Smith and was followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting was held in the county council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the legislative session of November 3rd, 2025?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes of the legislative session of November 3rd, 2025 stand approved as read. Madam Secretary, please read the title of the bills to be introduced this evening.
Bill number 9025, an ordinance concerning purchasing, acquisition of real property by gift. Bill number 9125, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget, real property taxes, clean energy loan program. Bill number 9225, an ordinance concerning subdivision development, zoning, cottage home development. Bill number 9325, an ordinance concerning zoning, uses, dog daycare and training facilities.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of the resolutions to be introduced this evening.
We do not have any resolutions to introduce this evening.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 7625 as amended.
Bill number 7625, an ordinance concerning public safety, sidewalks, removal of snow and ice.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Karen Henry, our director of public works, Alex Baki, our deputy director of the Bureau of Highways, Holly Velez, our chief of licensing in inspections and permits. Bill 7625 has been discussed a number of times. This is regarding snow removal on sidewalks. We do have one amendment that we can explain at the appropriate time. It's to make a clarification, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions or discussion? All right, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 7625 as amended. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 2 pieces which were shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. No one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 7625? If so, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Mr. Svensson.
Hi, Kurt Svensson, Arnold, Maryland. 4 things. 1. It's common practice for state and local governments to designate certain road segments as snow routes, clearly marked and prioritized for snow removal. The county ought to similarly designate certain sidewalk segments as prioritized snow routes. 2, there are many communities with just one entryway or where only a portion of that community even has sidewalks. There, most of the walking is done on the street in an abundantly safe manner. Clearing snow from these sidewalks is not a priority and does not significantly improve safety. 3, because this is a punitive approach, you immediately need to carve out exemptions, which all but ensures this proposed solution will fail. By definition, all it takes is one uncleared segment to render unsafe passage along a priority sidewalk route. Arundel ACDS reports that 27.8% of all county households are headed by a senior householder age 65 or older. That suggests that for every 4 or 5 homes, it's likely that one of those segments of the sidewalk will be exempt. The county has made it clear that it has no intention of clearing these exempted segments. Finally, and I'm speaking to my fellow citizens now, citizen resistance actions can turn this lemon of a law into lemonade. In my written testimony, I've provided a list of resistance actions for you all to consider. This can also be found on my Google Sites website at AA County Citizen Share. That's AA County Citizen Share. It's a Google Sites site. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Ms. Leahy.
County Council members, Amy Leahy, I'm the Vice President for Public Affairs of the Greater Severna Park Council, representing approximately 55 communities in Severna Park. 2 weeks ago, our President, Maureen Carr York, testified on this same bill. GSPC is concerned about this bill, especially now that draconian language allowing a lien on one's property to be assessed and be collected in the same manner provided by law for the collection of taxes. Most sidewalks in this county are not used by pedestrians to get to places such as schools and grocery stores. Most people in this county use an automobile to get where they need to, and as stated 2 weeks ago, we are concerned that passing this legislation could result in pitting neighbors against each other since it is complaint-driven. Additionally, there is no language in this bill to address privately owned commercial properties to remove snow and ice from their parking lots, a significant concern for the elderly who must use their automobiles to attend to doctor appointments and shop. We also recognize that Anne Arundel County has a significant problem with snow removal on its roads and public sidewalks and trails in a timely manner. My children who attended Severna Park Elementary School, which is right off the B&A Trail, could not walk to school many years ago because of snow and ice that was uncleared for weeks after a snow event. The use of county employees from inspections and permits to police and fine county residents is an abuse of county resources when they have more important jobs to do. Remember, these people live among us and are also our neighbors. We ask that the County Council defeat this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Leahy.
Paul Higgins, Pasadena, Maryland. I come down here tonight to ask you to oppose the bill as well. I think as I watched the 3-minute, 3-inch amendment come rolling out in the last meeting. Ms. Radavine, I think you were on track when you asked how we are going to gauge this. And we heard, well, we're going to argue over 1 inch. Well, I'm here to tell you that got things on the right direction, but I'm not sure you've totally closed that gap yet. To base it on everything that Mr. Swenson said, I would only add that to base it on time is a hard thing to do. I think we have a snow emergency plan. I think if a snow emergency plan's in effect, I think that supersedes 24 hours, 48 hours. I think that needs to be factored in, okay? I made the decision for a large employer at Fort Meade for many years on whether we open or close. I was in their snow center at 2 in the morning. I know South County can get slush and, a little bit of rain, and I know North County can get 4 or 5 inches, okay? How are we going to gauge that? I really think we need to think about this just a little more. I'm not against, I think we can do it without a law, frankly, but if we want to make this a law, we got to get it right. So I ask that you oppose this bill here tonight, and let's work on it some more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The public hearing on Bill number 7625 as amended is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 7625 as amended.
Bill number 7625, an ordinance concerning public safety, sidewalks, removal of snow and ice.
Madam Secretary, please read Amendment number 14.
Amendment number 14. This amendment clarifies that this ordinance applies to private property.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a clarifying amendment. So you'll remember a couple meetings ago, the council adopted an amendment that states that this legislation applies to government property. By specifying that, it infers that it does not apply to non-governmental property. So this is clarifying that it does, and that private property fronting county sidewalks is in fact subject to this bill.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Broadband, second.
Okay. Any discussion? Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In general, I have a question. Is enforcement of the bill as it's written contingent upon a complaint being filed through the appropriate complaint line
Yes.
Would someone have to give a specific address, or could it be just a street and then the county drives down the street and figures out which portion of the sidewalk? I mean, if there are two houses, but the complainant was really only hoping to address one of the homes, does the second home also get a violation because the county notices that?
Holly Velez, Chief of Licensing. I would imagine if we find another home, we would have to address that at that time. Yes, it was not submitted as the complaint, so I think that's going to have to be something we look at administratively.
Okay. And if there is a complaint, is there a requirement that the person identify themselves?
Cali County Supervising County Attorney, no, the county accepts anonymous complaints.
So they wouldn't have to say that they are, live in the community in which they are complaining?
No, I mean, people can put in complaints on the 311 app or call the 311 number, so they could put that in anonymously. There's no requirement here that they have to live close to the area or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand as we consider this amendment.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Ledbetter.
Just building off of that last question from Ms. Fiedler, if the complaint was submitted via email, let's say to IMP versus using the app, would the complainant's identity be protected, or would it, if a MPIA was put in, would the complainant then be revealed because it would be public information since it came in via email?
Cali County Supervising County Attorney, correct. That would be, it would be public information, and it would be released if someone made that request.
Thank you.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you. Do we have this language for other provisions in the code that say that it applies to private property? Do we really need this? Is there a serious concern that people think this is not going to apply to private property because it says it applies to government property? I'm just curious.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone did make that argument at some point.
Do we anticipate that would be a successful argument in court?
Cali County Supervising County Attorney. Actually, since I got called into this bill late, because Lori Blair Classmeyer was handling it until she went on vacation this week, and this question was brought up, when I first looked at it, I thought there could be a question the way that it's written now, because it has the applicability section, and then it just says that this applies to government property. So I think somebody could possibly argue that it doesn't apply to private property or a private property owner.
All right, I'm a no.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How does one file a complaint against the county?
Cali County Supervising County Attorney against the county?
If there's a section of sidewalk that the county is responsible for because it belongs to no one else, but it's in the county right of way, even if it's in the boondocks, how does someone file a complaint? Do they go to the complaint line that they would complain about a neighbor, or do they go directly to the department?
Well, I guess that's a good question, since this is this would be a new area of law. I guess they could do it either way. I think that anything can go on the 311 app, or they could probably email inspections and permits, since they're responsible for investigating it, and then inspections and permits would have to determine which department may be responsible for that property.
Mr. Smith.
So remove the word ice. If there were trash on someone's property over a period of time, is there a code that a resident could be in violation of if they just had trash placed on their property? And anyone can answer that.
Cali County Supervising County Attorney. Yes, there's several different county code provisions in the property maintenance code. A person can't have rubbish or trash on their property.
Okay.
Under the zoning code, they can't have junk or solid waste on
Can they
their
be
property.
fined for that?
Yes.
And what are those fines?
They are typically, under the property maintenance code, it's $125 for the first violation, then $500, and then $1,000 for zoning violations. It's either $125 for the first, or if we file an injunction, it's between $500 and $1,000 for each violation.
If the resident doesn't clean up the trash and the county can the county sort of task its personnel to go and clean it up?
Correct. If we get a court order, we do clean up violations and we do bill the property owner for those cleanups. And then there's certain violations at the health department, like nuisance violations, that they have the ability to abate even without a court order. And then they bill the property owner.
So we do have a system in place right now that permits the county to remediate an issue that may impact a larger community when it comes to violations that's on the books. Trash, for example, that's one you just pointed out.
Correct.
Okay. And if the county does remediate that cost, is a lien, or how do you recoup that cost back?
Kelly Kenny, supervising county attorney. So correct, the county puts a lien on the property. There's some different nuances on how they're collected. Some are collected immediately in the tax bills, and for zoning violations, they're actually a lien on the property, not collected until the property transfers.
And that's for trash.
Trash would be done under the property maintenance code by the health department.
Okay.
That's actually immediately collected in a bill to the property owner.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is actually for my colleague, Mr. Smith, just something to consider. And I know you were trying to make that was more of an analogy and maybe not a literal point, but I think a difference between snow and ice versus trash is that if a homeowner intentionally places trash on their property or junk or debris, that is intentional on their part, and asking them and having code in place to require them to remove it could easily be argued as somewhat different than Mother Nature putting snow and ice. So just wanted to, and I have a feeling it was just allegorical was where you were going with that, but just wanted to point that out just in case.
And to build on that, I will say too that please remember that you have 24 hours under this bill to clear the ice or snow. Then you may get a citation if someone complains, and you have another 24 hours to clean it, to do it before you would be cited again, before you would be fined at that time. So you are given time. I also want to reiterate, when we're talking about, there's a lot of back and forth we've had about that this is complaint-driven. The current process that we have in place is complaint-driven. The current process that has the police give the citations is totally done by people that call in 311 or notify a department to have that. So it is no different than what we already have in place for what it is. We're just switching the department that it would go to, but it is still the same thing that we've always had on the books. So, any other questions or comments? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 14.
Ms. Pickard. Aye. Mr. Volkey.
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler.
Nay.
Ms. Radvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Nay.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Amendment number 14 has been adopted.
Okay. Bill number 7625 as amended will be heard on December 1st, 2025. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 8725.
Bill number 8725, an ordinance concerning planning and development, Odenton Town Center Master Plan amendments.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. Joining me at the table are Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, and Mark Wildong, our senior planner from the Office of Planning and Zoning. This bill makes some changes to the Odenton Town Center Master Plan to ease the comprehensive rezoning process for this area in Region 5, which we'll be undertaking early next year, which is actually right around the corner. We did discuss it at the work session. I'll turn it over to Mark, Mr. Wildonger, if he wants to add any points of summation, and then we're happy to answer any questions.
No, I think Ethan summed it up, so happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually just heard from a constituent recently who remembers when the original language was passed, I think in 2016. At that time, there was some thought that there was flexibility to exempt Odenton Town Center from certain environmental regulations. I don't see that in the current plan or what is proposed here. I just want to confirm that there is no flexibility or additional flexibility with regard to environmental requirements other than the standard variance or modification process.
Cali County Supervising County Attorney. So from the environmental requirements of the county code, is that what they're asking about?
With regards to Odenton Town Center, correct.
I'm not familiar with any, and Mr. Wildonger's looking at me, so I'm assuming he's not familiar with anything in the plan either that would exempt those properties.
I'm not
from
either.
that.
Correct.
I didn't see anything either, just for the record, since it was asked of me, I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Ms. Ledbetter. Oh, okay. All right, any other questions? All right, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 8725. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 8725? Seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill number 8725 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 8725.
Bill number 8725, an ordinance concerning planning and development, Odenton Town Center Master Plan amendments.
Okay, any other discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 8725.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 8725 has passed.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 8125 as amended.
Bill number 8125, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, adequate public facilities, adequate transportation facilities, mitigation, fees and securities, development impact fee credits.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Jansen Evelyn, our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Land Use, Greg Swain, our County Attorney, Sarah Fowler, our Planning Administrator for Transportation Development in the Office of Planning and Zoning, David Braun, our Engineer Administrator in the Department of Public Works, and Brian Ulrich, our Planning Administrator in the Office of Transportation. There are a number of amendments included in your packet for this bill, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Evelyn, sort of level set on where the bill was and what these amendments do as a result.
Good evening, members of the council. I won't even level set on what the bill was. What I'll do is just go directly into the suite of amendments that we have before us. I wanted to thank you again for your patience as the administration worked through this legislation. Over the last several weeks, we have listened to your concerns, the feedbacks of stakeholders across the spectrum, from the development community to multimodal advocates, some who are here tonight. A reoccurring concern that we wanted to deal with was what will be the impact of folding multimodal into transportation, APF, or even removing it. I wanted to address that directly, and I think these amendments do just that. I want to be very clear, these amendments do not weaken the county's commitment to multimodal transportation. What they do is provide a balanced, workable update that advances those goals in a way that's predictable, fair, and administratively feasible. One of the amendments will be removing BPT, Bike Ped Transit, from APF while strengthening 17.6.113. One of the main issues raised was whether what we found through stakeholder feedback is that layering a second BPT adequacy test into APF created a level of duplication, cost escalation, and unpredictable outcomes. These unintended burdens threaten to slow down development, redevelopment, and did not guarantee more multimodal infrastructure. So instead of duplicating requirements, what we did was strengthen 17.6.113 by modernizing the fee in lieu rates, reflecting real 2025 construction costs, doing an annual inflation indexing starting next year, 2026, providing a 125% impact fee credit for voluntary BPT improvements beyond the minimum requirement. This would encourage rail construction, not mere legal compliance, and also a new regional capital requirement that ensures that fee in lieu dollars, they stay within the planning area where they were generated. So this strategic alignment, one, it keeps multimodal forward facing. As I've probably said so many times, and you probably got tired of me saying, we had two North Stars in this legislation. The first being to update a 20-year-old traffic APF, and the second one was to advance multimodal capacity within the county. So like I mentioned a moment ago, all of the BPT fee in lieu would now go to specific capital projects within the regional planning area where the fund is originated. That's one of the amendments that will be presented. I just wanted to make sure I kind of touched very briefly on the various amendments because they all kind of fit together. And additionally, the amendment that there's going to be an additional amendment that will clarify that any transportation impact fee credit would be formalized through a county-approved credit agreement. This one protects the county, ensures improvements are built to standard, and would provide transparency for all parties. And lastly, we've also included one of the last amendments tonight will be the triannual reporting requirement. Something we heard a lot over the past month was data. So to ensure that progress is tracked and monitored over time, this amendment, with the proposed triannual reporting amendment, it would do just that. Beginning in 2029, OPZ would report to the council on the transportation improvements made thus far, the BPT improvements that would be made, along with the total value of developer contributions. One that supports accountability, regional equity, and data-driven planning. It also makes sure that we don't lose sight of multimodal commitments over time. So thank you again for your patience as we work through this. And after the public comment, if there are any specific questions, we have a dream team sitting to my right. So again, thank you.
Okay. Is there any immediate discussion? All right. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 8125 as amended. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received one piece which was shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. No one signed up to speak ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 8125? If so, please come forward. Please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Mr. Corrin.
Thank you. John Corrin, Severna Park, on behalf of Bicycle Advocates for Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. First of all, I want to thank the administration for fully engaging us. We've been working this bill for years, and we've been working this bill for weeks and days, and now I'd say we've been working it for hours. I'm okay with some of these amendments, but I think we've gone a little too far in separating road and vehicle APF from bike ped and transit. I'm okay with the separation and sort of reverting back to the existing bike ped transit assessment that's been in code since 2019. But where I think we went too far is in separating the way funds work. We need to have a developer take a look at the number of trips they're going to generate, see what the impact of that is, and then use those funds to mitigate traffic, not just the way we've always done it by increasing capacity, but by trying to make it safe and accessible for people on short trips to use other modes. And so I think in Amendment 2, we've gone too far with separation. I think it's fixable, and we are prepared to provide in writing something that I think would fix that. The other one I'll jump to is Amendment 6. I'm pleased to see that there's an escalation to the fee in lieu rates in the bike ped transit ordinance. But we know from 6 years of history now that the original fee was too low. And so I think they've used the wrong inflation indicator. They use the CPI, Consumer Price Index. USDOT has a National Highway Construction Cost Index. That would be a more appropriate inflation adjuster. I will tell you that it is higher. And I think we should use that to reset the baseline and reset the annual inflator. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Minahan.
Good evening. Matt Minahan, Edgewater, Maryland. GAN wants to support this bill. We think it's a huge step in the right direction, particularly implementing multimodal transportation as part of Plan 2040 and Move Anne Arundel and Walk and Roll Anne Arundel and the region plans and policy documents, all of which you've passed. But land use and transportation policy have to be tightly integrated to achieve the goals of fully funded infrastructure before development and protecting our environment and addressing affordable living. We can't pave our way out of traffic congestion, especially with the serious need for more dense housing to help alleviate the housing shortage. In order to do this, the county must provide alternate means of transit and safe travel, particularly for short trips in areas of higher density around housing and commercial space like Parole and Odenton and Glen Burnie and the development policy areas in Plan 2040, coupled with the region plans, etc. We have a concern, as does the bike folks, about amendment number 2. You've spent a lot of time integrating transit and bike and ped and traffic in this bill, and amendment number 2 would pull them apart. We think they should be considered together and certainly should be funded from the same pool. So once you've collected the funds, those funds should be available to all modes of transportation. We recognize the need to balance the cost of development, which impacts the cost of housing, with the improvements to the transportation infrastructure to mitigate traffic. We leave it to the council and the administration to find that sweet spot, but let's prioritize spending on transportation infrastructure toward alternate travel modes where it makes the most sense by policy area. There's still time to get this balance right, so it fulfills these objectives. We thank the administration for its work on this, and we hope the council can get to yes on all these matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minahan. Mr. Svensson.
Wow. That's my testimony. Wow. A lot's changed. 9/15, this was introduced. It's 2 months later, and boom, this is quite a change. And you have one more meeting to deal with amendments. I guess you'll talk about this finally at a work session. This is no way to run a business, period. I'm absorbing this now because, it was just made available now, but Amendment 2 is a doozy, and it's still, this impact fee credits, that's still going to take away from road reconstruction because we aren't charging enough for impact fees for roads. We haven't for years. We actually increased income taxes to address that, but then we forgot to increase the impact fee taxes over the past 7 years. I'll be absorbing it, thank you, but you should not be painted in this corner. This is ridiculous for you to have one work session to talk about this important subject matter and to have it change like this. Take a step back. Start again. You're not starting from scratch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Svensson. The public hearing on Bill number 8125 as amended is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 8125 as amended.
Bill number 8125, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, adequate public facilities, adequate transportation facilities, mitigation, fees and securities, development impact fee credits.
All right. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 2.
Amendment number 2. This amendment removes bicycle, pedestrian, and transit infrastructure from adequate public facilities testing and modifies the existing bicycle, pedestrian, and transit infrastructure provisions to use bicycle, pedestrian, and transit fee in lieu for capital improvements, allows impact fee credits of 125% if a developer constructs bicycle, pedestrian, and transit infrastructure over and above requirements, and requires a triennial report on bicycle, pedestrian, and transit infrastructure fee in lieu contributions and all bicycle, pedestrian, and transit improvements in approved developments.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that's what this amendment does. But as Mr. Evelyn was stating earlier, in ongoing conversations, we heard a lot about incorporating multimodal into transportation APF. And so what this does, recalibrates it so that we keep the bicycle pedestrian transit assessment, we increase the fees to account for inflation, and it provides a impact fee credit for 125% for builders who go above and beyond what is required. The idea being that will incentivize private development to build the multimodal infrastructure that we want.
May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, discussion. Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When was this issue brought to your attention?
This issue, in terms of BPT and being folded into multimodal transportation APF, that was the first concern that was broached, at least when the final version of the legislation we were going to introduce was probably made public. So this is a area of conversation we've been having for several months.
For several months, Madam Chair. So conversations have been happening for several months on this issue. Why did this not come up in the work session that took place for 5 years? This issue. Or I'm sorry, the work group. This is a pretty big change for a bill that had a work group meet for 5 years. So I'm wondering, why was this not discussed
Someone who was
prior
in
to
the work group,
introduction?
was that an issue that came up in the past?
Greg Swain, County Attorney. Throughout the work group, the focus always was to try to bring this into APF, meaning the bike, pedestrian, and transit requirements into APF. And the work group discussed that extensively. Once the bill came in, the response that we were hearing, mostly related to cost, was really powerful, I guess I would say. And the three components of the bill, which was updating the road testing, and also the third component, which was addressing some issues with impact fees and impact fee credits, were just as important, if not more important, than the BPT provisions. So the decision was made to back off of the APF for bike, pedestrian, and ped, and to maintain the other parts of the bill as well, but also enhance the existing BPT provisions to better direct funding, to make the funding more consistent with inflation, and also to address the impact fee issue.
Mr. Volke?
Well, yeah, I guess what Mr. Swain said is what my understanding was. This was throughout the entirety of the work group, a fundamental part of this, the idea that you're going to morph this into APF. And now, the administration is okay with taking that piece of it, which was fundamental to this. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not in love with this bill, but the whole crux of this bill was you were going to work this into APF. This was going to have real teeth. This was going to be something that was going to change the way that we assessed development, how we did this in the county. And now, with one fell swoop, we're taking it out. And I guess what I'm not clear on is why the administration is so quickly willing to do what's really an about face after 5 years of a work group, putting this all together, coming in here, having months of hearings about this now, that the administration says we're going to back off of that position. Why?
Well, if I can just add before we get a response, that there were three components to this always. Sure. So, the BPT stuff was the biggest leap.
Okay. Yeah, and again, not to sound redundant, but again, there were always two primary North Stars. And as Greg has already noted, the update or modernizing traffic APF, that's something that's still very much a large component of this bill. In terms of the multimodal elements, yeah, Plan 2040, some of our other policy guides, they all talk about finding ways to enhance and build out the county's multimodal infrastructure, capacity, et cetera. And this bill, even with this amendment, still advances that concept. We still have, again, we now have targeted regional capital investment. You have the index fee and lieu rates. We have the incentivized, we've incentivized the market to do some of the voluntary improvements that would build out that infrastructure and that capacity. And we also have the required reporting. So if anything, I would suggest that this strategy focuses on delivery rather than maybe duplicating some of the efforts.
Yeah, thank you. Well, but I heard Mr. Corrin, who testified, and he's been a very big advocate on this for years, bicycle side. You know, that's one of the big things for him. He's got his pin on right now. But the point is, his concern was that this goes too far, that this swings the pendulum too far one way, whereas maybe before there was a concern it was too far the other way. So I guess, how does the administration see that in terms of a balance? Do you see this as a balanced amendment, or do you see this as, you know, being too far one way or the other? Where do you all land on this?
I mean, obviously, the administration, we're going to say that we find this is a...
Yeah, I figured you would say that. I
Yeah,
just wanted
it's a
you to say it
workable,
publicly.
passable solution. Yeah. Again, our goals remain the same. Build out multimodal capacity, and this still does that.
Okay.
It does it in very meaningful ways still, and that's the reason why the administration is.
But it seems like it largely freezes it in time.
Pardon?
It seems like it's freezing it in time in a sense. Like you're still taking out the multimodal requirements for APF, and you're just saying, well, we're going to continue with what we were doing. Am I understanding that incorrectly in here?
No, I think if anything, we're incentivizing multimodal capacity build out.
Okay. Go ahead.
Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, this has been frustrating for the council, it's clear. But I actually support this amendment, and this is probably the way the bill should have been introduced to begin with, in my opinion, if we actually want to see multimodal built out in this county. This is also, as far as I recall, and I can't find it in my Google Drive, but we were given a chart of the way neighboring jurisdictions do this work, and really all but one do multimodal through the BPTA. So this is more in line, especially with counties that look more like us, more suburban, with some rural, good bit of rural, some suburban, and a little splash of urban light, right? So this, to me, seems to be the direction that we should be going. I understand there's frustration here on the council, and we'll see where this bill goes tonight, because this isn't the way we've done other large reform in other parts of the code. I feel like we know how to do it better than the way this has happened since September 15th. But I do support this amendment for those reasons.
Ms. Ravian.
Thank you. I'm reluctantly going to support this amendment because I worry that if I don't, this bill may not pass. And I would rather this bill pass because I do think we are meeting some important goals here. So correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I don't want the bill to die. I'm not in love with this amendment, but I can get behind it if this is what we need to pass the bill.
Mr. Volk.
Me? I'm up. Thank you. I would just say this, Ms. Rodian. My discussions with the administration and also with the industry is that even if this amendment passes, this bill is not still in a position where the industry folks would support it, which I think is going to create problems on the council to be able to pass it all together, right? So I don't think that this amendment in and of itself is going to solve all the problems. That being said, you know, arguably, does it get you closer to a place that maybe it will pass? Sure, it might, but I also think you still may not get there. There are still concerns in this bill that are not addressed by the amendments that we'll take on tonight.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the record, when I spoke with some of the admin earlier today, and I'd just like stuff to be transparent, I said one of my major concerns with this legislation was that I did not want our housing community to be negatively impacted if we're trying to build more affordable housing. And this potentially could, in my mind, could have been a counter to that because costs incurred with meeting some of the APF standards with it would essentially be added back to the cost of those individual houses, which wouldn't help us reduce and create more affordable housing, in my mind. But from our conversation, I think that those concerns may have been mitigated, at least with amendment number 2. to some degree, and if you can sort of just confirm that that's the intent, or at least the narrative that we had spoke about earlier, it would make me feel comfortable.
Yes, publicly I'll say, look, one of the biggest issues of concern was cost and how the increased cost would then ultimately be passed on to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing it this way, we again we avoid that cost being passed on, but secondly, we also still get multimodal capacity and infrastructure built out within this county.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Volk.
Do we see this as cost neutral? I still see this as a cost to the development community. Like, I still see that this is going to add costs, especially with the increased fees that we're charging in here.
So, as I know we've previously discussed, the current assessment fee for BPTA is something that we had buy-in from both the building industry as well as the multimodal advocacy groups, that it had to be increased. I guess when the legislation, I forget when it was originally passed, maybe 2018, but it was essentially stuck in time, and so the amount of monies that were being collected were not. So is it cost neutral, to answer your question? And succinctly, no, it's not cost neutral, but
Right.
it's now coming to 2025 market realities.
I copy that, but
Yeah.
so the reality of it is, the building community said, we think this should cost more, or we're willing to pay more because we recognize it costs more. And the advocates say, we're good with it, we know, we want more of this, and it's going to cost more money. But the people who you didn't ask what they think are the people who are going to be the end users who are paying this, because the builders aren't going to eat this cost and the advocates aren't eating this cost. It's going to be the people who are actually buying this. So to Mr. Smith's question about affordability, this actually is going to have an impact on affordability, because these additional costs are going to have to be borne by someone. And the person who is bearing them is whoever the end user is, who is purchasing these properties, that now the builders have said, we're going to pay this higher fee. Maybe people get more for it. I'm not trying to argue that, but I'm just suggesting to you, you can't argue that this is not going to impact affordability, because it will. This will absolutely impact affordability. There's a cost here. It has to be borne by someone.
All right, so even if it's not cost neutral, then let's just say the cost is de minimis.
The lawyers going at each other there with the de minimis. Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to agree. I do think that there is a cost associated with this still, even with this amendment. Where I am as we're having this conversation and we're talking about the stakeholders and we're talking about the industry, Mr. Volke's comment was the very first time that we talked about the actual end user, the citizen, the people who are going to have to live with the ramifications, good or bad, from this bill. And this work group met for 5 years. This was a staple point of the legislation. One of the bicycle pedestrian advocates testified this evening, was part of that work group, and now we're chopping it off because of conversations that happen behind closed doors. And that, to me, is not the transparent nature that residents are looking for. This is a very important bill. People are tired of the way that we're doing things. I think we all agree we need to change. But I have serious concerns about this amendment, and that we have gone a little too far.
Ms. Rodbian.
I know my colleagues have mentioned that there is a cost that would come with leaving the legislation as it is without this amendment, and the debate about the cost. But I feel like one of the important costs that we're not talking about isn't necessarily in dollar signs, but in safety. And if we're talking about, we've literally have had weeks and weeks of discussion about safety on sidewalks in poor weather. And here we're talking about the possibility of, I don't know, maybe depending on how things play out, once this bill is implemented, the possibility of delaying having sidewalks at all. So, we talk about monetary costs, but what about the costs to residents? And, I think when we're talking about affordability and we're in the context of affordable housing, we're more likely to have people who don't have cars and are relying on sidewalks, bicycles, and public transportation. And I know that much of our conversation again, around snow revolves around folks that are able to hop in a car. But that does not reflect everyone in this county. There is still a significant part of the county in my district and in other parts of the, in my district and other parts of the county who do not have cars, who rely on public transportation. And so are we shortchanging their safety and their well-being by not considering that cost?
I will add, I appreciate the addition of the triannual report. I think that that is important for us to see exactly where these funds are coming, where they're being used and what projects are coming into. So I am very happy to see that added in as part of this. Is there any other discussion on amendment number 2? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 2.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Radvian?
Reluctantly, aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Amendment number 2 has been adopted.
All right, Madam Secretary, Mr. Hunt, is there anything the administration would like to say about amendment number 3?
Just that we would like to withdraw it in light of ongoing conversations and some additional concerns that were brought to our attention on it.
Okay, so amendment number 3 is withdrawn. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 4.
Amendment number 4. This amendment clarifies that the applicable matrix for determining the impact area of a development is the adequate road facilities matrix.
Okay, Mr. Hunt?
That's precisely what it does. It's very simple relabeling.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 4.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Amendment number 4 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 5.
Amendment number 5. This amendment imposes a triennial reporting requirement to update the County Council on traffic improvements funded by impact fee or developer mitigation.
Okay, Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So much like the amendment number 2 that imposed the triannual report requirement for BPT improvements, this also requires planning and zoning to submit a report to the council detailing what APF traffic improvements and contributions associated with the projects receiving site development to the council every 3 years.
May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No one? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 5.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 5 has been adopted.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 6.
Amendment number 6. This amendment increases the amount of bicycle, pedestrian, and transit service infrastructure fee in lieu to an amount adjusted for inflation from 2018 and provides for an annual adjustment thereafter.
Okay, Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As was previously mentioned, our current fees have not been adjusted since 2018, and they're too low. This brings it up to date to account for inflation and adjusts annually for inflation thereafter.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 6.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendment number 6 has been defeated.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 7.
Amendment number 7. This amendment provides that impact fee credits must be approved by the county via a transportation impact fee credit agreement with developer.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Swain, actually, if that's okay.
Greg Swain, County Attorney. This is just to clarify that the approval of transportation impact fee credits is evidenced by a transportation impact fee credit agreement. It was apparently unclear that the current language required the agreement, again, based on a court case we had some years ago. So this clarifies that that permission is evidenced by the transportation impact fee credit agreement.
Yeah. May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 7.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Amendment number 7 has been adopted.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have an amendment.
You have an amendment?
I do.
When are you going to share this with us?
You have it. It's amendment number 3, but it'll be restyled as amendment number 8. Affirmative.
All right, Madam Secretary, please.
We have an amendment number 8.
He is,
Correct. It's the same amendment. It's just going to be amendment 8 as opposed to amendment 3 because the administration didn't move amendment 8. 3. Didn't move 3.
Ms. Schultz.
And we will change the sponsor line to Mr. Volkey. We can do this on the record. Everybody already has it. It'll save paper from me having to reprint it.
We like to
Okay.
save paper. Thank you.
So it will be the language of amendment number 3 introduced by Mr. Volkey, but it will now be amendment number 8. Madam Secretary, would you please read amendment number 8?
This amendment allows existing frontage improvements to be preserved during redevelopment or a change of use if Planning and Zoning Office and Director of Public Works agree those improvements serve as the same needs as the County Design Manual standards.
Move the amendment.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Ms. Pickard?
Well, I guess I'd like to hear why the administration removed the First Amendment and why Mr. Volkey is bringing it back. Let's talk about the amendment.
Yeah, let's hear the first answer.
All right, I'll kick it off. So when we drafted this amendment, we were trying to get to a place where originally, as the language in the bill, we were told that it was a little ambiguous, a little vague. It could have been interpreted in a way that was overbroad. So our first crack at this via amendment number 3, now styled amendment number 8, was to add a bit more specificity and to make sure it was more aligned. We're having conversations today where we realize, all right, there's still not necessarily a meeting of the minds. So we want to ensure that the language adequately reflects what the negotiations we've been making over the past several weeks. That's why we withdrew the amendment, knowing that we had another 2 weeks to come back with the language that the administration would be comfortable with.
Mr. Volkey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Who were the negotiations between?
We've had a variety of negotiations, whether it's with bicycle advocates, whether it's members from the building industry, whether it's other advocacy groups. So we have a variety of meetings on a weekly basis with going back and forth, trying to find a way that we come up with the appropriate level of balanced agreement.
Are the negotiations recorded?
You know they're not, council member. No, the negotiations are not recorded.
The point I'm trying to make with this, and I think I'm making it, is that the problem for every person sitting in the audience is that they're not privy to those discussions. And so as we are making these massive changes on the fly to all of these components of the bill, it's very apparent that the administration is doing this in a private way with certain people, depending on who they're talking to, and the public writ large doesn't have any access or ability to see it. So then an amendment like this comes in, And the public doesn't know why it was withdrawn or why it was moved forward because they're not privy to any of that discussion, which is exactly the problem with this entire bill, which is what we have continued to say from the outset. So the purpose of this and putting this in as amendment number 8 was to say, maybe this is good, maybe it's bad, but I want to understand why publicly, because nobody else in the public has any idea why amendment 3 was withdrawn. So if you can speak to specifically what the issues are with this that were presented in these discussions that happened, I think it'd be helpful for everyone to understand how this bill is morphing and changing right before our eyes. I want to know exactly what the discussions were. You said there were conversations with bicycle advocates, with the building groups, with other people, and as a result of all that, the administration decided this first crack wasn't the best crack and they were going to do something different. So I would like to know, what did you specifically hear? What were the concerns that came back from all the stakeholder groups where you got input? And why was it that this wasn't good? And what is the future looking like for this amendment? Because I'm assuming you're going to come back and do something on this with a different iteration.
Well, I can't recall from memory perfectly and adequately every single point that was made, but I can say what the future amendment would look like. Again, we wanted to make sure that it had this specificity because when you're talking about doing frontage improvements, originally this same council last year voted down a frontage bill that the administration had put forward. I believe that bill failed 7-0. So when we incorporated this into transportation APF, one of the issues that was presented by this same body was the inclusion of frontage legislation into the bill. So that's why when you talk about who are we talking about this bill with, we're talking about, again, the same panoply of stakeholders. And that's why we want to ensure that this language is done in a way so that this amendment can pass the same way we've tried to make sure all the other amendments pass so that we can have a bill, a transportation APF, whether it's an amended form or is in the original introduced form that is ultimately adopted by this body. In terms of, I don't use AI to keep record of my meeting minutes that are done virtual, so I'm not going to be able to recount with specificity all of those conversations.
Okay, well, do you recall, who you spoke with? If not the substance of the conversation, who were the individuals? Who are the stakeholders that the administration is reaching out to for this particular amendment?
For this particular amendment, we've had last week we had conversations with representatives from the building industry. We also had meeting. You said who? MBIA and NAOP. Okay. Also, we've had conversations. I don't know if it was it last week with Growth Action Network. We also had conversations with. I know John is an individual, but John is normally the individual that when you're talking about multimodal or bicycle safety, that we have those conversations with.
So the administration is talking to NAOP, MBIA, Growth Action Network, and then bicycle advocates. Those are sort of the main stakeholders that they're reaching out to for this particular amendment.
For all of the amendments, as well as for transportation APF and the legislation specifically.
Okay. Is there anybody in there that the administration is reaching out to that is going to be an end purchaser of these units that we're going to create that are going to be subject to these new requirements, like the taxpayers or the home buyers or anybody like that?
You're wondering if the administration is talking to unknown prospective home buyers.
Or even like an entity, like the realtors. No. Are you talking to the realtors about this bill? Are you talking to them about what this will do to costs? Are you talking to like taxpayer protection groups? Anybody like that?
So, Councilman Volke, I've already explained the individuals or the groups that we've been having conversations with.
Okay, all right. I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, who is it that the outreach is being made to? And it sounds like it's the builders on the one side and it's the advocates on the other side. And it seems to me, like I keep coming back to, that the folks who are ultimately going to buy the products that we're hoping this bill at some point will create into nice, developments that are walkable and bikeable and all that, no one's considering them. I'm not sure how they're being considered at all in this.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Pickard.
So I'm happy to discuss this amendment. I know I've brought up in conversation since this bill was introduced, I, as my council member representing my district and really the citizens of my district, if that's what we are here to do as council members, if you've not noticed in the bill that they brought in road frontage, which we did fail, a bill failed on that topic, I've brought it up in my conversations, and I'm not trying to defend any aspect of how this bill has gone out, but by reintroducing the same amendment and still not allowing us to talk about the substantive nature of this, what the words on the page and how they affect the outcome of this bill or policy, we're not doing our job either as council members to bring a public conversation, which is what we are here to do as representatives of our constituents. So I would still like to, if we could, take a step back from the theater and actually ask about road frontage as it applies to the original bill. I understand the adjoining, this was the conversation we had during the road frontage bill, that it was a little, something that dropped out of the code rewrite in 2005 and no longer was a requirement and now is being brought into that bill that we did not like a few months ago because it seemed to expand upon what frontage is. And this amendment seems to change adjoining to bordering, and that still is sort of nebulous to me what that means. It seems to mean the same thing if you ask me. So can we, but then there's also this couple sentences that ask about an exception. So can we talk about the amendment before we decide how we're going to vote?
Yeah, first I'll start out and I'll kick it over to some members of the team. But when we talked about bordering, I think original part of the concern was when we were saying adjoining, that could have been interpreted as across the street, down the road, around the corner, and we wanted to do something where it was specific, where it was bordering on the site or the development site. And we thought that language had the specificity required. Additionally, when we talk about the new language that was added into amendment number 3, now styled 8, we knew that there's certain redevelopment projects that or there's certain developments that have already occurred, and they may meet the standard, but we didn't want this bill we didn't want this legislation to have an impact where it would say, you already meet the standard, now go back and redo everything, because that's an unnecessary cost that we want to make sure the end user doesn't ultimately have to live with. So that's part of the reason why why this amendment, in terms of when you're talking about what's the words on the page, that's the rationale behind the bill. I don't know if there's anyone else that wants to add anything additional. Guess not.
Greg Swain, County Attorney. That's exactly it. I mean, the purpose of the amendment was to address 2 issues. One, to clarify that road frontage is the road that fronts on your development, right? Touches your land. So we tried to clarify that in the beginning of the amendment. And then secondly, again, to avoid that very problem where you have a redevelopment or a fairly recent development that's going to undergo a change of use, not to require that development to have to tear out whatever improvements or frontage improvements they already put in just to meet this standard. If those 2 agencies, and that's DPW and OPZ, can assess what's there and determine that that's adequate and you don't have to redo it. So really a cost-saving measure in that sense.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. So Madam Chair, so in withdrawing it, since it was shared with us Thursday, Friday, I'm not really remembering, you've clearly had some conversations where the language on Amendment 3, although the intent is probably agreed upon, there's some disagreement on the exact language presented in this amendment.
Correct, and to be perfectly candid, we may not even get to an agreement on this. I mean, I think the additional language that's been inserted or included, I think that's pretty clear. I think we want to be sure that the language in terms of whether it's adjoining, whether it's bordering, we want to make sure that that is something that can only be narrowed, that it can be construed in a way that is consistent across administrations, across directors, across staff. So that's the reason why we held this particular amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you're going back to discuss this amendment, if you do go back to discuss this amendment after tonight, am I reading this correctly that both the Director of Public Works, and Planning and Zoning have to be in agreement in order for this provision to fall into place.
That's my understanding as well, ma'am. Yes, that's
So
the way
if-
it's written. Yes.
If one disagrees, then that property has to proceed as the code is written with the rest of the bill.
Again, when we go back, yes, short answer is yes.
Okay.
Now do
I
you see
hope
why we
you
held,
all-
now do you see why we held the bill? I mean, the amendment.
I have so many issues with this section of the bill. I find it problematic that two department heads have to come to an agreement. So I hope you go back and talk about that as well.
Mr. Volk.
I actually like that two departments have to come to an agreement. It's sort of a check and balance, right? And I would assume that's how you all intended this originally, was the idea that if you had two department heads discussing this and two department heads agreeing that whatever was there was sufficient and met the aims of the code, then at that point, that would suffice for allowing some sort of exemption to any additional frontage improvements. So I actually like it, hence the reason that's why I brought this amendment back. And I guess the challenge that I have with it is, it seems to me, you haven't said this, but this is my perception, that this was something the administration liked, and the administration was going to put this forward, and the administration probably heard from industry that this was not something industry wanted, and so the administration said, okay, well then we're going to back off and we're going to try to find something that industry will get on board with. And I'm looking at it going, if this is what you all thought was the right thing, I don't know why we don't put this in. And then if you want to come back with another amendment at the next meeting and keep tweaking this and adjusting it, more power to you, right? But it seems to me like this is where you all want to be, and there is a check and balance in there. Why are we not moving this amendment?
I would say that conceptually, I think we were generally in agreement, but the specifics of the words on the page are the point of contention. So that's why we're asked for this amendment to be withdrawn and to go back and rework the language.
Does the Office of Law have a problem with the wording in here that I'm assuming the Office of Law blessed before this came down to the council as an amendment?
Greg Swain, County Attorney. No, we didn't have a problem with the language.
Good.
Any further discussion? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll for amendment number 8.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Nay.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Nay.
2 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. Amendment number 8 has been defeated.
All right. Bill number 8125, as amended, will be heard on December 1st, 2025. So based on the section 3305B1 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, the council is permitted to meet in closed session to discuss personnel matters over whom this public body has jurisdiction. May I have a motion to meet in closed session pursuant to section 3305B1 to discuss personnel matters?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll to hold closed meeting in accordance with the section stated.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold a closed session has passed.
Okay, is there any other business any council member would like to bring before the county council at this time? May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The county council is adjourned to the public until Monday, December 1st, 2025 at 7 p.m. for our next legislative session here in our chambers. We will now adjourn to go into our closed session.